My name is Randy, and I'm going to be showing you my Sen Triplets EDH deck, or now known as Commander. Okay, for starters, this is my general Sen Triplets. Extremely effective against almost any type of deck, whether you're actually able to play their cards or not. Anytime that she stays in play for more than a turn, you can basically shut somebody down, at least get yourself a chance to set up. Land base is pretty simple, pretty standard for a 3-color deck. You have a bunch of basic islands, plains, and swamps. Basic lands are very important in an EDH deck, even whenever you're playing a multicolor deck. Mostly because a lot of times you are going to be seeing things like Path to Exile because of your generals, and things that let you search out basics, and a lot of things like Ruination and Bad Moon. You have to be ready for those. Fetch lands, of course, can go get your shock lands and your duels. I recommend basically a set of each of those for any deck that you're playing. And of course filter lands are also very important because in a 100-card deck it's very hard with one card of each type to get a solid mana base no matter how you put it together. Arcane Sanctum also speaks for itself, 3 colors. And then the Vivid lands also, unless you're playing a very aggressive deck, I always recommend the Vivid lands as well. Land removal is very important as well. Strip Mine and Wasteland I'd put in almost any deck as well, just because things like Maze of Ith can definitely shut you down if you don't run a lot of creatures and you can't overwhelm your opponent. Bounce lands like Orzhov Basilica and Azorious Chancery are great for setting up your mana base, but also they are very subject to things like Bad Moon and land removal, so one Strip Mine can definitely put you back 2 or 3 turns at times. Glacial Fortress, Urborg Tomb Yawgmoth, Bojuka Bog, another underrated card in EDH. It can't be countered, can remove graveyards. This, and soon you'll see the Relic of Progenitus and the Tormod's Crypt, very, very important when you're playing against any deck of any color. Things in the graveyard, since they're usually not able to be targeted by most things, a lot of people do run their EDH decks with a lot of availability for things out of the graveyard. You have to have answers for it or you will lose. Celestial Colonnade Manlands, once again, underrated, must use them. And then, of course, the rest of it mostly just lands that fix the colors. Tainted Field, Adakar Wastes, Skycloud Expanse. Reliquary Tower, another card that's underrated. In any blue EDH deck or green EDH deck, you tend to draw a lot of cards. You don't want to have to discard them, so I recommend those and ways to tutor it up. Academy Runes keeps you from worrying about the one-shot removal for your artifacts. And, of course, since there is so much land destruction, Flagstones of Trokair helps a lot. So that way, if your land is destroyed, you can go fetch up one of your duels or shock lands. And the land I think belongs in every single ADH deck, Maze of Ith. It has a way of shutting down even the biggest, most deadly threats. I would put one in any deck without question if I had enough. Starting with the creatures, there's not very many creatures in this deck. This is mostly a control deck. It's the Pro Tour Foil Eternal Dragon. It's obviously speaks for itself. The land cycling is the biggest reason why it's in here, being able to fix your mana, tutor on turn 2. Archon of Justice, excellent removal, great beater. If it dies, getting it back with something like a Living Death or a Makeshift Mannequin also really helps use it to get rid of just about anything on the field. Sunblast Angel, it hasn't really performed that great for me so far in the past, but it does, on paper, seem like a very solid answer to a lot of creatures. But of course, if it wasn't a beater, it doesn't really hurt to use things like Wrath of God and Planar Cleansing to clear the board. Linvala, Keeper of Silence, an excellent EDH card, especially with formats full of things like Mael the Anima and Rofellos, the Llanowar Emissary. He can be a total pain in the butt. She shuts him down completely. Serra Ascendant, a very underrated EDH card by a lot of people. Turn 1, 6/6 flying lifelink, hard to beat that. Even late game, it can be a nice chump blocker, gain you a little bit of life to get yourself set back up. Iona, kind of the chump card of a lot of white EDH decks. I don't like to play her too often because she can make the game very unfun, but in a pinch she's a 7/7 flyer and can shut down one of your opponents if you're playing multiplayer. Venser, he's kind of like a temporary counterspell, helps out quite a bit whenever you need just a last-second blocker, or to shut something down so that someone has to use it for a different target. Mulldrifter, amazing card draw. Anytime that, I never ever mulligan a hand with 1 blue mana and a Mulldrifter in it, because you can evoke it really early in the game and also get it back later with any number of graveyard recurring spells. Teferi can shut down a lot of other decks. If you're playing any kind of counter spells at all, which I only have a few in this deck, but having him in play definitely shuts down their answers to your generals, specifically things like Condemn, and also shuts down the Voldok Honoraries, which you'll see a lot in EDH, which is also a very, very strong card. Puppeteer Clique, to me it speaks for itself in this deck. There's a lot of removal. When we get to the spells, you'll see that there's a lot of things that put creatures in graveyards. Being able to take back their best creature a couple different times, it's very, very strong. Grave Titan, unbelievable card in any format, specifically EDH. It's very easy to get to 6 mana. Having 3 guys, and then 5 guys, and then 7 guys can be very, very tough to deal with, even for some of the best decks. And also, since it's a come into play ability, being able to recur it, once again, amazing. Shriekmaw, probably one of the 2 or 3 best come into play removal spells that you can get for a creature. It's just like having a terror in play, and plus, once again, whenever you use things like if you use a Living Death or Makeshift Mannequin, it's just another removal spell. But it's good to have an answer for like a turn 2 Rofellos or a turn 1 Serra Ascendant on the other side of the table. Angel of Despair, I think, is the best removal spell / creature spell in the format. Yes, she costs 7, but she is a 5/5 beater. Her move comes into play and takes almost anything out. Excellent attacker and blocker. Divinity of Pride, one of the only 2 life gain spells in the deck, really. 8/8 flyer on 5 in EDH is insane, just like the Serra Avatar, or the Serra Ascendant. And of course, flying creatures are definitely key. Any kind of evasion in any format is very, very, very good. Sphinx of the Steelwind, I haven't tested this one too much, but I got a foil in and had to put it in the deck. It used to be the Magister Sphinx, where you could put an opponent at 10 life. I'd probably recommend that more if you're more competitive. But if you want to have a lot of fun, Sphinx of the Steelwind is a very, very strong card, especially against the stronger EDH colors, with the exception of blue.